So today we have a really cool watch to show you guys. It is an Astor and Banks. It was actually lent into the channel by a subscriber named Peter. Really nice guy, doesn't want his identity revealed at all, so I will not be giving any more information than that. Peter has some really awesome micro brand divers. He actually lent in 3 watches to the channel. Today we're going to look at the first one. It is an Astor and Banks, Chicago-based brand, and it is the Sea Ranger in blue. So let's flip the camera and take a look at the watch. So I want to thank Peter again for lending in this watch to the channel. This is a watch that I have been sort of chasing to get on the channel for quite some time. Astor and Banks make some pretty interesting, very well made watches. They are a micro brand here in the United States. They're located in Chicago. And as I mentioned, this is the Sea Ranger B. So this is the blue dial version of the Sea Ranger. I'm going to get right into it. It comes in very nice packaging. The packaging is a black box. It has a zipper enclosure. It's like a clamshell box. Inside there is a microfiber basically lining the entire box. You have a warranty card up here, just Astor and Banks on there. And then it comes with 2 straps. There is a rubber strap, which is in black. That gets a buckle on it, which has the brand signature on it as well, and then a seatbelt NATO in blue, which sort of matches that dial. Again, you get another buckle on there as well, which is signed Astor and Banks, and then you have a tool down in here, which is just for strap changes, which is really nice. And then, of course, you're getting a watch. So there was 2 things that immediately impressed me about this watch. One of them is the bezel. Now, the bezel action is pretty good. It's not the best bezel action that you've ever seen on a watch. However, what's really good about it is that it is made out of sapphire, and they did a really good job. They put a 12-hour bezel on this watch, and it has the logo there at the 12 o'clock. So it has a little bit of an orientation in the dark, which I like, and it looks really good. I believe it is loomed as well. We'll do a loom shot towards the end. It matches the dial really well. So the blue in the dial and the blue in the bezel match very, very good. And then you get this orange accent on the second hand. The entire second hand is orange. And then there's just another orange accent above the 6 o'clock index. And that is the name of the watch, the Sea Ranger. And basically that's all the orange that you get on the watch, which looks really good. It really does look good. You get applied indices, and then there's like a little bit of a ring that's sort of stepped down in the dial, which is a 24-hour track, excuse me. And then at the top of the dial, it just says Astor and Banks. It also gives you the depth rating, which is 300 meters. I really like the case and the bezel on here. And honestly, the case is sort of the third thing that I noticed about this. But before I noticed the case, I noticed the bracelet. Really, this might have been the first thing I noticed because the bracelet is phenomenal. I really love the style of bracelet. It sort of reminds me of Panerai, but it tapers, and I really like this taper on here. It looks and feels great. There's screwed links. It is beautiful. Of course, you're getting milled end links. You get drilled lugs, which is really nice as well. Just a really nice job on this bracelet. The only thing that lets the bracelet down is the buckle. So I feel like for the execution of this watch, I don't know why they went with such a generic buckle. They really could be competing with brands that are a little bit higher end in the micro brand space if they upgraded this buckle. Now, I'm not sure if they have upgraded this buckle at all, but this is just a generic micro brand buckle with 4 positions of micro adjust. So I definitely would like to see this upgraded with something with on the fly micro adjust. That would be really, really good. Really interesting case as well. It's sort of asymmetrical, so you can see there are crown guards on this side of the case, but they are very flush almost with the crown. Not entirely flush, obviously, but the crown does protrude over those crown guards, but it's an asymmetrical case. So basically, there is more metal on this side there is on this side. So it gives you a little bit of an odd measurement as well. We'll do the measurements in just a few minutes, but really nice case on here. Beautiful dial. I love the orange accents. Bezel action, not that great, but it is a 12-hour bezel. And I believe it's 120 click. So it sounds pretty good. Feels okay. It's just the audible clicks aren't that great. Everything lines up though. So not bad. But considering the price, that could be a little bit better. And also the bracelet I wanted to mention, female end links on here, so you get a really true lug-to-lug. So the effective lug-to-lug and the lug-to-lug are the same. You get a big crown on here. It is signed, and it's sort of domed and polished. A very traditional looking crown, but it's very, very large as well. I'm going to do measurements in just a few minutes. You get a Sellita SW200 in here, screwed in case back, screwed in crown, 300 meters of water resistance. So that is very nice. Very quickly, let's just do some quick measurements, and then I want to throw it on my wrist so you guys can see what I am talking about. So it's 37.9, so it's 38 millimeters at that bezel, but if you actually measure it with those sort of that asymmetrical case, you're getting almost 40 millimeters, depending on where you actually grab it. So it's around 40 millimeters, and the thickness on here is 13.6. That's including the sapphire crystal, which, by the way, is just slightly domed. As you can see, it's not incredibly domed, but it is slightly domed. So it's really not that bad, especially considering it's 300 meters of water resistance. As I mentioned, the lugs are drilled. That is really nice. 45.5 at the actual lugs. At the actual bracelet is 45 millimeters. So essentially, the effective lug to lug is the exact same as the lug to lug at the lug, so it's 45.5. So there you go. Really nicely proportioned watch. It is very nicely finished, I have to say. If you look at the profile of the case, you have a really nice line of polish on the top of the case. On the bottom of the case, you don't get that, but it's still very nicely finished. No sharp edges. No sharp edges on the bracelet. The bracelet is phenomenal. It's really very fluid. Very well done. Crown polished, and then the bezel itself is polished, and you have a little bit of brushing as well on the edge. It's like a coin edge, and then brushing on the top of the case. And then, of course, you have that sapphire insert, which is obviously glossy, so it gives you a little bit of glossy effect on there. Beautiful, beautiful watch. As I mentioned, not my watch, and it's not lent to the channel by the brand, so I did not size this for my wrist, so I have not worn this. But I would imagine it is pretty comfortable, you know, based off of the dimensions. But really quickly, let me show you what I have on my wrist. Then I'm going to throw this on my wrist. Then we're going to talk about price, and then we'll do a quick loom shot and wrap up the video. But today I have a super weird watch on, and this is my most recent purchase. This is a Romain Jerome. Yes, the defunct brand Romain Jerome. There's a reason why I bought this. This is made by Astor, who are a manufacturer who actually makes Singer watches and a lot of MB&F actually. And Eric Gerard, who is actually another designer, works basically with MB&F. So basically, two brands who work with MB&F making their watches made this watch for Romain Jerome. So obviously, they were trying to do something really special, very limited edition of only 99 pieces. Just a really phenomenal, very cool watch. And unfortunately, you know, they went out of business during COVID, so they are no longer making watches. But here is the Astor & Banks on my 7.5 inch wrist. It's basically size for me. It's a little bit big, but there you go. 7.5 inch wrist, Astor & Banks Sea Ranger B, and I guess the B stands for blue, I assume, on my 7.5 inch wrist. You can see I really love the space between the bezel, the case, and the actual bezel itself. Really nice, and the bracelet is just beautiful. Just a beautiful watch. Wears like a 40 millimeter on my wrist, and I think they did a really good job. I would, you know, ask for some upgrades here. One, I would like a little bit better of a bezel action, in my opinion. The buckle is subpar for the price. You know, you're approaching around $800 for this watch, depending on how you're getting it. So it's around $800 or $850. I think at that price, they should really be putting a better buckle on here. This is just a generic buckle. It's basically off the shelf, micro brand buckle. That should be improved. Everything else on here is great. The hands, really very nice hands. They're sort of like A hands, I guess you would call them. I don't know what you would call these, but the orange second hand and then the orange accent on the dial. Very well done. Applied indices that track. Everything looks really good. You have a minute track that goes around the outer portion of the dial. Finishing on the case is excellent. Very, very nice. Let's do a loom shot. I believe that the bezel is loomed, but I'm not 100% sure. So let's do a loom shot, and then we will wrap up the video. Loom very nice on here. You can see the bezel is loomed. That whole 15-minute track is loomed as well. Very nice. They did a great job on this watch. Really well executed. Like I said, there are a little bit of issues, I would say, at this price point with that bezel action and the buckle, but everything else is really nice, especially the bracelet, the asymmetrical case. I love the design on this watch. Obviously, it takes cues from other vintage watches from a few different brands. One of them is a Universal Geneva or Geneve or whatever you want to call it. That is a Polerouter, I believe it's called, and it is a sub Polerouter, and they actually make an asymmetrical dive watch like this. Obviously, very different case, very different bezel, but that bezel had a Bakelite in it, so it sort of looks like this a little bit. That was a really beautiful watch. Sort of reminds me of that, and those are very, very expensive. Very cool that they took inspiration from a watch that's really not that well known. But tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I think this is a cool watch. I think they did it really well. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is WatchChrisBlog, all one word. I have some links in the description. Those links are to Amazon. If you click those links and buy anything, it helps support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything extra. However, I very much appreciate it. Anyway, thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.